All right, guys. So the next step in our journey here is to be able to find the x and y intercepts of a linear equation, as you see at the top there. Now, the first thing I want to go over real quick is we actually just finished doing this with tables. Okay, usually when they ask you to find intercepts, they're going to give you the equation in standard form, which is ax plus by is equal to c. Now, the main thing you're going to notice here, guys, is that the numbers, the a, the b, and the c, they are going to be integers, which is good for us because they're going to be nice and neat. So if you take a look at this equation right here, which we'll be working with shortly, that is written in standard form. Notice I got a 3, you got a -4, you got a 12. Nice, neat numbers to work with. Okay, so that just gives you a brief intro to what standard form is going to look like. All right, now the intercepts. The x-intercept of an equation is where the graph crosses the x-axis. Okay, crosses or intersects. Intersects sounds a lot like intercept. Graph crosses the x-axis, so you can probably figure out the y-intercept is where our graph crosses the y-axis. Now, if we take a look at the graph there, okay, this is going to be your x-intercept. This is going to be your y-intercept. Okay, now all x and y intercepts. Okay, well, we'll talk about x-intercepts first. All x-intercepts are going to be on the x-axis. Okay, if you're on the x-axis, that means you haven't gone anywhere up and down. So your x-intercept is always going to be some x, comma 0. So the y-coordinate for your x-intercept will always be 0. Okay, now y-intercept is the same thing in reverse. Y-intercept is always going to be on the y-axis. Okay, which means you haven't gone anywhere left and right. So for the y-intercept, your x-coordinate is always going to be 0. So your y-intercept is always going to be 0, comma some y. Now, when they give you a graph and they ask you to find the intercepts, it's really easy. You just locate the points and tell the coordinates. Now, I already have them located there. This is your y-intercept, which would be 0, comma 5. And this is your x-intercept, which would be -2, comma 0. Okay, so when a graph, they're really easy. Now, in an equation, it's a little more challenging. It requires you to do a little bit of math. Now, we'll talk about the x-intercept first for this problem. So for the x-intercept, that means, remember, that the y-coordinate is equal to 0. Now, if I was to plug 0 in for y, it's basically going to take this part out of the equation because it's going to be a 0. So you're left with 3x equaling 12. Divide both sides by 3, and x is equal to 4. So your x-intercept is 4, comma 0. For your y-intercept, it's basically the same thing, again, just in reverse. Let me bring my y back. For the y-intercept, remember your x is 0, right? We talked about that over here. Okay, your x is 0. So if I put x into there, or if I put 0 into there, it's going to make that 0. It's basically going to take it out of the equation. So I'm left with -4y is equal to 12. I would have to divide both sides by -4. And your y-coordinate, your y-intercept is -3. So your y-intercept is 0, comma -3. So your intercepts are 4, comma 0, 0, comma -3. Okay, I actually have a name for this, guys, for the x-intercept. Okay, for the x-intercept, we basically hide the y, call it hiding the y. And for the y-intercept, we hide the x. Right? When we plugged in 0, it basically took itself out of the equation anyway. Okay, so to recap, guys, for the x-intercept, your y-coordinate is 0. For the y-intercept, your x-coordinate is 0. If you're finding it on a graph, okay, just locate the points, give the ordered pairs. Okay, if you have an equation like we did over here to the right, you have to hide the y, hide the x. Basically, you're plugging in 0 for the x and the y to find the other.